Welcome to Fan for Racing Radio. I'm Fan for Racing Sharon, and joining me is Jay Huseman for our NASCAR Cup Series preview of Martinsville.
Always exciting race. We're going to have a lot to talk about. At this point, everything would be a conjecture as far as even what my thoughts are on Hendrick Motorsports history. We'll get into some details and what to expect here as we go into this Cup Series race. So I'm excited to be here, Sharon.
Oh, me too. I'm always excited for a race weekend, and we've got a Martinsville race weekend coming up this weekend. Now, the NASCAR Cup Series will race the Cookout 400 at Martinsville on Sunday, March the 30th. It is a 0.526 mile asphalt oval. That race will take place Sunday, March the 30th at 3 p.m. Eastern. They'll have pre-race coverage on Fox Sports 1 starting at 1:30 p.m. Eastern, and radio coverage will be on MRN and Sirius XM NASCAR Channel 90. Now, they'll race a distance of 210.4 miles over 400 laps. Stage 1 will be 80 laps, ending on lap 80. Stage 2 will be 100 laps, ending on lap 180. And the final stage will be 220 laps, ending on lap 400. So a lot to look forward to in this race. Just to give you a little bit of preview of where you can see Cup Series coverage. On Saturday, March the 29th, they'll have practice and Busch Light Pole qualifying on Amazon Prime, MRN, and Sirius XM at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. And then also on Sunday, of course, is the race that we just talked about, the Cookout 400 on Fox Sports 1, MRN, and Sirius XM. The race starts at around 3:30, but remember, there is pre-race coverage starting at 1:30. So we've got some storylines and insights to share here. So, Jay, why don't you kick us off here?
Well, to carry over from the qualifying session here on the Cup Series, not as exciting of having to see drivers go home, but you will see two open teams. There's 38 teams and drivers for the 48 spots listed, your 36 charter teams, as well as two open teams. The number 50 will be Burt Myers, and the number 66, Casey Mears. And if you're a race fan, you know that name. You'll remember it from the NASCAR Cup Series. So looking forward to that this weekend. And at the end of the show, I'll give you another little teaser for Hot Topics.
There you go. And then our first storyline headline.
Well, we'll start with the history. And this one, obviously, the Cup Series tops it, as this weekend marks the 153rd running of a NASCAR Cup Series race at Martinsville. Martinsville is the only track that has hosted a race every season from 1949 through 2025.
And that's amazing. That is I think Martinsville is the oldest track on the schedule. And Darlington might come close, but I think Martinsville is the oldest one.
No, I think you're right. I think Martinsville is the oldest.
Yes, Martinsville Speedway at 152 NASCAR Cup Series points-paying races actually, here you go, has hosted the second most points-paying events all time, only behind Daytona International Speedway at 156.
Oh, there you go. And Martinsville is the first of 6. We got 6 short tracks scheduled for 2025 here in the Cup Series.
Okay, now Martinsville has held a playoff race every year of the postseason from 2004 to the current year, and this is the 6th straight year that Martinsville held a race prior to the championship, going back to 2020 to 2025.
I did not know they were the only one that has been in the postseason the entire time. I know we've changed that up a couple of times. How about that?
Yes.
Now, I mentioned this, Hendrick Motorsports. When you talk about Martinsville, you're going to talk about Hendrick Motorsports. HMS drivers have won 5 of the last 9 Martinsville races, with all 4 active drivers winning at least once. William Byron is the one repeat winner out of the HMS group, and he has 2.
Okay, pretty cool. He might be one to watch. The last 5 Martinsville races were won from the starting spot out from starting positions outside of the top 10, tied for the longest streak ever at Martinsville.
Again, that one's not quite as appalling as some of the others we've heard, but is a little bit shocking. And I talked about Hendrick Motorsports a little bit more. They finished 1-2-3 at Martinsville in April, which was the first 1-2-3 finish by a team ever at that track. And that was part of their celebration there as they were celebrating milestones at the track. So no better time to do it.
Absolutely. The last 7 races at Martinsville were run by drivers 30 years old or younger, the longest streak ever at the track. So 30 years old or younger. That's pretty amazing.
Well, that one is a back and forth. I know it's obviously a tough track to learn to manage, but we know the age of our drivers in the NASCAR Cup Series right now, so that kind of makes sense too.
Yep.
Now, all but 3 of the last 76 races at Martinsville, dating back to 1987, were won by a driver with at least 100 career Cup Series starts. And that kind of goes to what I said. It takes some experience to know how to run Martinsville. So all but 3, they have at least 100 career starts.
Okay, a total of 59 different drivers have won the Cup Series at Martinsville. This weekend, 10 of those 59 different Cup Series winners will be active. Now, the driver with the most wins is Denny Hamlin. His came in 2015. He swept in 2010. He also won in 2008 and again in 2009. There's about 5 drivers here with 2 wins, including Ryan Blaney, William Byron, Brad Keselowski, and Kyle Busch. We'll start with him. His wins came in 2016 and 17. Brad Keselowski also won in 2017, but he also won in 2019. William Byron's wins came in 22 and 2024. And Ryan Blaney also won in 24, but he also has a win in 2023. The remaining drivers here all have 1 win. Let's start with Joey Logano, who won there in 2018, Chase Elliott in 2020, Alex Bowman in 21, Christopher Bell in 2022, and Kyle Larson in 2023.
Now, it seems like when you look at those stats, it used to be if you're good at Martinsville, you kind of had a lock on it until the next driver got it figured out and took over. We see that a little bit more sporadic in recent years, and that includes Christopher Bell's. He picked up his win at Martinsville in October of 2022 to advance to the championship 4 round, but that's his only top 5 finish at the track in 9 starts.
Interesting. Okay, Alex Bowman's October 2021 Martinsville win is his only top 5 finish at the track in 17 starts. That's kind of incredible too.
Well, what we'll wait to see is if Chase Briscoe gets a win, because his 5 top 10 finishes at Martinsville are the most at a track. All 5 have come in the last 6 races, so maybe he can get a win out of it this weekend.
Yeah, we'll have to keep an eye on that. Now, Joey Logano's 11 straight top 10 finishes at Martinsville is the longest active top 10 streak at Martinsville and his longest streak at any track.
Now, Ryan Blaney's got some top 5 finishes. He's got 10 of them, as a matter of fact, at Martinsville. That's his most at a track. And he finished top 7 in the last 6 races there, including winning the Martinsville playoff race the last 2 years, which sends him on to the championship 4 round both times.
You know, Ryan Blaney's had such a rough start to the season. I hope it gets turned around at Martinsville.
He needs it, agreed.
He needs it. Him and Joey Logano both. The last 13 Martinsville races were won by 3 organizations. Hendrick Motorsports has 5, Joe Gibbs Racing 4, and Team Penske has 4.
Well, at least we're seeing a little more variety than what we've seen in the past, so we'll see how that shakes out this weekend. Now we're going to talk about the poles. We got 6 different pole winners, though, in the first 6 Cup races in 2025, and that's only occurred 4 times in the modern era, 1998, 2014, 2019, and here in 2025. And the modern era runs from 1972 up to the current year.
Okay, now this season is the first time since 2016. 5 different teams have won the pole in the first 6 races so far this season. So there's that tells you the competition is tough and there is parity in NASCAR.
I'm going to disagree with that a little bit by using Hendrick Motorsports, though, as they've won the pole for 4 of the last 6 races on short tracks. They got their short tracks figured out.
There you go. All right. Now, the last driver to win from pit stall number 1 at Martinsville was Jimmy Johnson, and that goes back to April of 2013. Seems like history now, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. And that one's a little surprising because they like that number 1 pit stall.
Yes.
Now we have a total of 63 different drivers that have won a pole in the NASCAR Cup Series at Martinsville Speedway. This weekend, we have 6 of those drivers of the 63 that are active. Start with Joey Logano leading the way with 5. In 2015, he swept there and picked poles up as well in 16, 17, and 19. Denny Hamlin, a strong Martinsville contender for sure, has 4 poles, 2007, 10, 13, and 19. And Kyle Larson and Kyle Busch each have 2. Larson's coming in 22 and 2024, whereas Kyle Busch is a little bit further back in 2014 and 18. A couple of current years we're missing there. Ryan Preece in 2023 and Chase Elliott in 2022. Again, those are your active pole winners this weekend.
All right. Here's some more interesting insights. The eventual Martinsville winner didn't lead for the first time until at least lap 186 in each of the last 8 races, Jay. They're holding back.
Yeah, well, the interesting thing when I look at some of these stats is who does all this studying to have these statistics. That's one I'm impressed with, whoever does that job. Now, the pass for the win has come in the final 30 laps in each of the last 5 Martinsville races. May not be a last lap, but getting down to it, it comes in the last 30 laps. Again, that's the last 5 races.
Okay, now this is kind of interesting. There are 3 full-time teams that have not had a DNF yet in 2025. That includes Hendrick Motorsports, Hayek Motorsports, Legacy Motor Club have not had a DNF yet this year.
Well, that I did not realize Legacy Motor Club had not. I know John Hunter Nemechek has been real good. And for fans that may not know, that Hayek Motorsports is renamed. It's a driver is Ricky Stenhouse Jr. was JTG Daughtery. They went through a name change and ownership over the season. But that's the car driven by Ricky Stenhouse Jr.
Okay.
Now, we got Chase Elliott, one of the HMS drivers. Chase Elliott's the only driver to finish in the top 10 in all 7 short track races in 2024. And his 7 straight top 10s on short tracks is the longest of his Cup career.
Pretty impressive. Ryan Blaney, on the other hand, will make his 261st Cup Series start for Team Penske this weekend. He passes up Ryan Newman for the 4th most all-time in the team history.
Talking about leaders, the 201 lead changes in 2025 is the most ever through 6 races. We've been talking about this. The competition is really tight.
It is indeed. Now, 153 lead lap finishers in 2025 are the most ever through the first 6 races of the season as well.
And we're going to keep building on that as we got 20 drivers that have scored a top 5 finish through the first 6 races, which is tied for the 5th most in series history and the most since 2010.
I said this last time. I'm going to repeat it again. I think this is the heyday for this Gen 7 car, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a little bit. William Byron is the only driver to lead in each of his first 6 races of this year so far.
He's definitely been one to run up front. Christopher Bell can become only the third driver in history, though, to win 4 of the first 7 races in a season. Bill Elliott did it in 1992, Dale Earnhardt in 1987, and Richard Petty all the way back in 1975. You pick up 3 victories, yeah, you're in line to break some records or tie with some legendary names for sure.
Yes, indeed. Now, a stage winner went on to win once this season, and that was Christopher Bell. He won stage 2 at Phoenix. That's the fewest ever through 6 races. It's amazing that so many of the stage winners have not gone on to win the race. But Christopher Bell did do it at Phoenix.
One is one I don't know that if I'd have believed just off the top of my head. I had to kind of process that. But again, if it's in the stat book, it's history, so got to believe it. Now, here's an unfortunate one. Ford has only 5 top 5 finishes through the first 6 races of 2025, the fewest since 2016. Josh Berry accounts for 2 of Ford's 5 top 5 finishes this year, and that includes their only win. They've run so strong, but the finishes just aren't there.
Yes, it's been disappointing. They've just had not good luck. Let's put it that way. They need some good luck. Now, 2024, the NASCAR Cup Series champion, Joey Logano's 247 laps that he's led so far this season is the most ever through 6 races by a driver without a top 10 finish in those same 6 races. So incredible. So many laps led and no top 10 finishes in all of those laps led.
And there's another one for Joey Logano, unfortunately not a good one. He is the first defending champion without a top 10 finish in the first 6 races of following season. Again, I kind of threw out Daytona because that's a wild card. But as a champion, you should be getting your game together through 6 races.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a head scratcher. Okay, let's move on to Ty Gibbs. He's earned 40 fewer stage points in 2025 through the 6 races that they've had so far compared to the same 6 races in 2024. That's the biggest decline among all drivers. So Ty Gibbs kind of having a rough start to the season as well.
And to me, that one's a head scratcher too, because all last year we were just talking about when was he going to get a win, because he was on fire. Not so much to start the season, but a driver that has been, that was the biggest decline. Talk about Bubba Wallace. He's got 61 stage points through 6 races in 2025, and that's his most ever at this point in a season by 40 points. So again,
Wow.
He's on the other end of it.
Yeah, that's impressive for Bubba Wallace. Kudos to him. Now, John Hunter Nemechek finished on the lead lap in the last 6 races. That's the longest streak ever, his longest streak ever in the Cup Series. So kudos to John Hunter.
Yeah, I remember hearing that one. I mentioned that with Legacy Motor Club that I knew he didn't have the DNF because he was on the lead lap in all of them. So great job and start for John Hunter Nemechek. Now, Kyle Larson, we know what he's capable of. His average finish in the last 5 Martinsville races is 2.8. Now, you compare that to 20.5 in the first 15 or in his prior 15 races. And this is where I said, once you figure it out, it took him a while to figure it out with that 20.5 average. It clicks, and now it's down to a 2.8 average.
Yes, indeed. Now, one thing that Ryan Blaney does have is he ranks 2nd this year in stage points earned. 43% of his total points this season are from stages. So,
and you
good stat for him.
Well, and you mentioned it, the tough start to the season. I'll take a peek at where he is in points, but had, I think, 3 DNFs in a row now because he had the blown engine, 2 or 3 DNFs in a row. But looking real quick, he is still 10th in points based off of those stage points.
I told you I would give you some more information with regard to the Gen 7 car, and they're talking about how it's turned the tables at Martinsville. For the first time in 2025, the NASCAR Cup Series regular season drivers in the top division will compete on a bona fide short track when the series visits Martinsville Speedway this Sunday. With a few exceptions, Martinsville traditionally has been a feast or famine kind of track. Alex Bowman, who won the fall race in 2021, has no other top 5 finishes in 17 starts at this half-mile paperclip shaped venue. Similarly, another driver that we're keeping an eye on this weekend, Christopher Bell, who secured the championship for berth with a Martinsville victory in 2022, hasn't scored another top 5 finish at the track in his 9 starts at Martinsville. Of course, there are some exceptions. In his last 5 races at the track in Southern Virginia, Kyle Larson, the driver in the number 5 for Hendrick Motorsports in a Chevrolet, has posted an average finish, and we have already mentioned this, of 2.8, and he comes to Martinsville fresh off his first victory of the season last Sunday at Homestead Miami Speedway. So he's on some momentum coming to Martinsville this weekend. With the introduction of the next-gen car into NASCAR's Top Series in 2022, it's proven to be a real fine line of demarcation. In the Gen 6 era, drivers such as Denny Hamlin, Joey Logano, and Brad Keselowski, along with Martin Truex Jr., took center stage at Martinsville. But in the Gen 7 era, those 4 competitors are winless during the Gen 7 era. And Hendrick drivers have moved to the forefront. Defending race winner William Byron led a 1-2-3 finish for Hendrick last year in the spring race, marking the first time a single organization has swept the podium positions at Martinsville. The victory was Byron's second at the track since 2021, and Larson accounting for another Hendrick win in the spring race of 2023. Byron, however, approaches the race this weekend with some degree of trepidation. Yes, I said trepidation. He has won 2 of the last 3 spring races, but the 24 team is struggling at Martinsville in the fall, barely making the championship 4 with finishes of 16th and 6th in 2023 and 2024. That's pretty interesting for William Byron. Another driver we have to talk about is Ryan Blaney. He won the fall playoff race for the past 2 seasons with his 23 win leading to a series championship. And Bell has the other triumph in the past 6 Gen 7 races. Hamlin leads all full-time active drivers with 5 victories, but it's not as if the driver of the number 11 Joe Gibbs Racing Toyota hasn't been in the mix in the next gen era. He simply hasn't been in victory lane. So in 4 of the last 5 Martinsville races, Hamlin finished in the top 5. He also leads active drivers with career top 5s. He has 20, top 10s, 26, and laps led at the track at 2,448. So he's got some impressive stats there, just doesn't have the win. Another radical change in the next-gen era is the apparent diminishing importance of starting position at Martinsville. The last 5 winners have come from starting spots that are outside the top 10 in the previous 14 races. Only twice did the eventual winner start from a grid position worse than 10th. So that's an interesting stat as well. So some drivers to watch at Martinsville this weekend, but some interesting stats as it relates to pre-Gen 7 and then during the Gen 7 era.
The one name that wasn't mentioned that I thought maybe would be was Chase Elliott. And when we talk about the HMS dominance, he was a part of that. And I put him with Denny Hamlin, Kyle Busch, and then even Kevin Harvick and Jimmy Johnson, who have since retired from full-time driving, talking about how the Gen 7 car, you have to drive off the right front instead of the right rear, and they're having a tough time kind of adapting to that. Kyle Busch had asked Chase Elliott that, and he said, yeah, I'm having that same problem. Jimmy Johnson's talked about it, as did Kevin Harvick as he retired. So with HMS, though, you still have 2 that have kind of figured it out, Kyle Larson and Alex Bowman, but then you mentioned William Byron and Chase Elliott kind of dropping the other way. And I know Chase Elliott, specifically on the road courses as well. You know, it wasn't that many years ago he was known as the new king of road racing. It's not been so with this next gen car. So that's, again, part of the leveling of the playing field, if you will, but also the opportunity where we're seeing more competition. I hate it because, I mean, Chase Elliott, a good driver, and I like seeing him win. But it also opens that door where we don't necessarily see the dominance we have from some other drivers. Not to name Jimmy Johnson as being dominant, 7 championships, but it does open that up. So I think we're still in a good position.
This is a good time too to use this to illustrate. A lot of times we have people who want to compare drivers of today with the drivers of previous years, and it's like comparing apples and oranges because it's an entirely different racing scenario that the drivers of previous years have to the drivers of the Gen 7 car. You can't make those comparisons because when Dale Earnhardt was driving, it was nowhere near what they're doing now with this next gen car. And you just can't make those comparisons between the drivers.
I agree. That's always a tough, a lot of sports are that way, even in basketball or football. But I think in racing, it most certainly is based on the advancement. We talked about it the other night on Hot Topics. You know, we remember when you started breaking 20 seconds on pit stops, and then it was 16 and 14 and 12. And now we're talking about 8-point and 7-point second pit stops. So you're right. There's so many things that go into that. And this next gen car. And the one thing I will say here, I know we don't have a compound or split compound for this Martinsville race. The short track with the next gen car, the short track is one that kind of suffered. NASCAR wasn't really expecting to see that when it came to that. But I think the teams, as well as NASCAR, they've all kind of gotten around it. I'm not saying it's great or the best it's ever been, but I think they have worked diligently on fixing that problem. Part of it with the tires, part of it within the car. So, and like I said, we don't see that soft tire compound option tire this weekend at Martinsville. So I think they feel good about where they've gotten to with it.
Absolutely. I think that they have worked, as you said, diligently to improve upon something that was an unexpected consequence of the next gen car. It did not perform well in the beginning on these short tracks, but I think they've done a good job of making it the improvements to where we're seeing some decent racing at the short tracks now. And Phoenix is a good example of that.
Yes, another track. I think you're right. I think that was a good example of that.
Okay. Now, I just want to say, watch for more coming soon here at Bampa Racing Radio. Coming up on Monday, we will have the previews from all the races at Martinsville this weekend. We also have an interview with Patrick Staropoli on tap for Monday night, as well as our Hot Topic Sound Off conversation. And that will happen at 9 p.m. Central, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific time. And Jay, I know you had a couple of teasers you wanted to put out there for that.
Yeah, I'll go back to what I announced at the beginning of the Cup Series preview here. Casey Mears is going to be back in the number 66. And recently we saw Helio Castroneves make a start at Daytona. But yet Mike Wallace was denied a start based on his not being in a Cup car in X number of years. And I'll have to get some more information so I have the statistics come Monday. But I heard Joey Logano talking about it, and this pertained to Catherine Legg, who made her debut at Phoenix, was involved in a couple of spins. I get that, but I don't feel like she was a dart without feathers, as I've heard Tony Stewart refer to one rookie. But we'll talk about that, of what qualifies that. The other driver I wanted to throw out, and I don't off the top of my head remember where, Casey Kane is going to be making, I believe, an Xfinity Series start. So that was another driver in the mix of it we haven't seen in a while. Personally, I'm excited for it, but it does make me question how NASCAR goes about making those determinations, which is what Joey Logano was bringing up.
Yeah, we would like to get clarification on that, and it would be great if somebody would come on the show and give us that clarification of how they go about determining who gets that chance to come back and who's not. Because I do get the feeling, Jay, there might be some things that we don't know about. And I wonder,
Well,
well, I'll bring it up on
oh,
Hot
go ahead.
Topic. I'll bring it up on Hot Topic. I think that
No,
there
I was
might
just
be
going to say,
some reasons.
go ahead. Yeah. I was going to say, I don't know if we'll get somebody that'll give clarification, but I know we got Chris Crichton. He'll give an opinion. I don't know what that does for clarification, but kind of like myself, I'll give an opinion. How about that?
Yeah. I think there might be a reason for why Mike didn't make it, but we'll talk about that later. And we'll, specifically on Monday night. So
There
you
you
have
go.
to tune in to hear what I'm thinking. Yeah, Monday we'll have all the reviews. We'll have the interview with Patrick Staropoli. He's racing in both the Xfinity Series, or at least will attempt to make the Xfinity Series. Not everybody's going to make it in, as well as he's racing in the Truck Series. So I'm kind of anxious to see how that turns out, and looking forward to talking to him about that. And then we mentioned the Hot Topic sound off at 9 p.m. Central, 10 p.m. Eastern, and we always have a lot to talk about during Hot Topics.
Looking forward to it. Appreciate the opportunity to be here today and get all these knocked out. I know you said Sal should be back home in California, going to help with some of the reviews, so we'll work that out. If not, I'll talk to you and Dr. Sterpoli and Chris on Hot Topics on Monday. Any others I need to jump in with, you let me know.
I will indeed. So thank you so much, Jay, for being available for the previews. On this Thursday night, we're doing previews instead of Friday morning. And I do appreciate it. We can get these out and available for everybody well in advance of the races. So thank you for that. And I hope everybody enjoys the race weekend. I know I will. Are you doing anything over the weekend, Jay?
I'm going with my son Friday night to a program in Birmingham. So I know I said I might run down to Wynot on Saturday then. I don't know yet. Hunt the Front running at Wynot Motorsports Park, the House of Hook. So Chris is definitely going to be busy. I do hope they have good weather so that doesn't affect things. If not, like I said, sometimes it just got to take the day off. Since I'm not working, I may just take the day off and sit at home and watch that Xfinity Series race.
Oh, that'll be fun. I do want to tell everybody thank you so much for watching. We do appreciate each and every one of you taking time to hear what we have to say. We enjoy doing these, and we hope you enjoy them as much as we enjoy doing them. So with that, I think we're ready to sign off for our round of previews for this weekend at Martinsville Speedway. Again, enjoy your race weekend, and we'll see you on the other side. Take care, everybody.
Have a good weekend.